Takijama, Episode 5, Dream Healing.
ここで会えるよ。あ、そうそう。滝山さんは朝には何にも覚えていないよ。でも、夢乃ちゃん、あなたは覚えてる。
Thank you, brother. The shaman smiled and turned. By the time he'd taken 3 steps, he was gone. A vast desert shimmered in the blazing light cast by a huge red fireball. Takijama stood alone and watched as, sinking slowly into the velvety purple of the western sky, the sun disappeared. A time before living memory, recounted through stories, song, and dance.
あなたは覚えてる。
Oh, sumimasen, I'm sorry. Did I wake you? Mr. Takijama slowly opened his eyes and took a deep breath. Before him lay a magnificent traditional Japanese garden and the broad waters of a tranquil lake. Waves rippled gently against the stepping stones. White and pink water lilies bobbed up and down as a giant carp lazily swam in circles. Oh, these fish are fond of you. I'm sorry, but the temple is closing for the day. Amatersu, the temple gardener. He threw some fish food into the water. With a splash and a whirl, it was gone. He laughed. I've cared for these fish for the last 22 years. They're such tourist traps. Mr. Takijama looked up at Amatersu and smiled. I've had a dream. Wow, exclaimed Amatersu. Do you know what this lake is called? He looked inquiringly at Takijama. Mr. Takijama's eyes shone as if reflecting some distant and spectacular fiery eruption. I dreamed I was back in Australia, far from my home in Hokkaido. There was a man in the desert, one of the ancient ones. He opened his hand, and there lay a gemstone. The Mother Spirit asked me to give this to you. Meditate on this stone, and he will come, he said. I gazed into that opal. All the colors of the rainbow and the sounds of 1,000 voices crying out filled the air. Over the horizon I could see something gigantic coming. Faster than lightning he slid, and then towering over me. His head was bigger than Tokyo. Oh, that would be a big head, chimed in Amatersu. His scales, they blazed with brilliant hues and colors. His eyes gleamed pure molten gold. A mighty rainbow snake.
Traveler, have no fear. I am your spirit guide.
And with that, he swallowed me whole. Now inside this great snake, blinded by the dazzling light, I existed at the dawn of the dreaming time. What? I'm sorry to interrupt, whispered Amatersu. But do you know what this lake is called? Takijama looked deep into the eyes of Amatersu, the temple gardener, and nodded. Yes, my friend, said Amatersu. The dreaming window pool. You have had a vision. Bidding Amatersu farewell, Takijama walked down to the river, through the dense bamboo forest. The late afternoon sun cast dancing light and shadow on his face. He blinked, as flickering through his mind came snatches of memories. This strange vision in the dream window pool. Before me slept a beautiful woman in a dark cave. I gently woke her singing a children's early morning song. Her face was so beautiful, yet distant and sad. Her eyes, as they slowly opened, radiated soft golden light, gentle like a temple candle. Have no fear, my lady. I bring you a gift from the spirit mother of the children living in the great South land. Her children have loved and cared for their land from the time they were born. Their spirit mother has cried also for her stolen babies. Her tears are scattered across the land. She offers compassion to you as a sister. A mighty and wise rainbow snake carried me in his belly across oceans and mountains to find you. My name is Takijama.
My brother. I am offended by him.
She sighed.
Takijama followed the path to the west, through the magnificent bamboo forest, down to the banks of the Oi River. He passed a group of Oba-sans dressed in traditional kimono, chatting and laughing as they headed home after a day's outing. He walked past tourists carrying backpacks and cameras. School children in uniform, playing with their funky cell phones, sitting on a bench underneath a spreading cherry tree. A couple, happy and in love, stopped him and asked if he would take their photo by the river. The memories flickered again as the late afternoon sun reflected dapple rays of light from the swift flowing river. The boatmen slid their bamboo poles into the swirling waters, skillfully guiding their craft to shore between the rocks and clear of the swift current flowing at the river's heart. Takijama removed his sandals and sat on the stone pier. After this strange, hot summer afternoon and a long walk, he longed to dangle his feet in the cool water. Looking down, he could see eddies dancing around his feet. And as his eyes refocused to see deeper into the water, fish. And then he remembered.
My brother Susano. He's galloping around on his piebald colt, creating all sorts of havoc, trampling gardens, violent crashing, shaking the mountains. Such disrespect.
Takijama bowed. Now he knew exactly where he was and to whom he was speaking. Amatersu Omikami, the Japanese sun goddess, hiding in a cave from her brother, the fierce and rebellious storm god Susanoo no Mikoto.
Even with these ancient gods, it still comes down to a brother-sister thing.
Takijama reflected.
Some things never change.
My lady, it pains me to see you like this. I can tell you, well, your brother is bound for the sin bin. And as for that colt, well, I love horses. So next when you see him, whisper this story into that colt's ear and stand back.
What?
Amatersu's beautiful face initially showed disbelief, then delight, as Takijama whispered into her ear the story of Hanako, the celebrity cow, and of course her powerful turbo mantra.
Now it may take a day or so, but it's something you're not going to want to miss.
He teased.
Particularly if your brother happens to be sitting on that colt when it happens.
The cave suddenly filled with music, sweet laughter. Mr. Takijama had made the sun goddess laugh. At her request, he told her some stories of the modern world. When it came to the war, she was devastated. She wept, her tears soaking her gown.
Our children live with this curse. How can they find happiness? People of your time, their future, stolen by ancestors' war and greed. Now, those same arrogant people of the present steal their own children's future with still more wars. The shadow of evil darkness, cursed ignorance. The earth, nature, and all her creatures will rise up against them. Human beings are her honored guests. They do not own her.
Takijama told Amatersu of the years he spent alone and lost on Turtle Island.
The great wind chose you for a reason. You must carry my words back to your time. But first, a message for the spirit mother of the great Southland.
The mighty snake had carried Takijama back along the rivers of dreaming time. Now he stood once again on the desert plain. My lady Amatersu asked me to relay this gift. Takijama gave the seeds to the shaman. The shaman smiled and turned. By the time he'd taken 3 steps, he was gone. A vast desert shimmered in the blazing light cast by a huge red fireball. Takijama stood alone and watched as, sinking slowly into the velvety purple of the western sky, the sun disappeared. A time before living memory, recounted through stories, song, and dance.
Oh, sumimasen, I'm sorry. Did I wake you?
The earth, nature, and all her creatures will rise up against them.
A warm summer evening settled over the river, so Mr. Takijama took the train back to town. Now he faced a difficult journey. Step 1. Yasaka Shrine, Gion, Kyoto. The next morning, Takijama walked to the magnificent Yasaka Shrine in Gion. In the corner of the grounds there stood a stable. Inside were 2 life-sized old wooden horses, Sasano's. Takijama sat by the stable for some time.
Oh, my friends, he said. Well, here goes.
Then he rang the giant bell and spoke to Sasano no Mikoto.
Even you can see that this must be done. You defeated the 8-headed monster, you saved the young maid from the sacrifice. Now I must draw on your strength to defeat an equally evil monster. I know you lost your mother, and the rage you felt. Your sister also lost her. Together, though, you will find your mother's spirit in the pure hearts of children.
A warm muzzle nibbled the back of Takijama's neck. With a start, he turned to find 2 proud horses standing there, a piebald colt and a sturdy chestnut.
We will carry you wherever you need to go.
Step 2. Go to a place with memories of pain and fear. The old city spread before him. Hushed voices of thousands murmured, their voices buried in the still air, in the trees, the grass, all living creatures. Ghosts and memories of the horrors of war. Behind him, noble and proud, stood Sasano's horses. They watched as Takijama took tiny glowing seeds from his mouth. He offered a deep apology for the behavior of those who had waged this war, and promised to dedicate his meditations to the love of all creatures and life, and to preserve nature. The horses moved closer. Weakened by these memories, Takijama leaned back against their powerful chests. Sasano's horses, beautiful, fearless, gave him strength. In the ancient past, Sasano, mounted on one of these horses, defeated the Hydra. Now this magical race of horses carried a different kind of warrior. Takijama released the glowing seeds. They gently drifted up, spreading, healing and awakening with rays of pure light.
the tears of Amatersu.
Takijama-san は朝には何にも覚えていないよ。でも夢乃ちゃん、あなたは覚えてる。
At Hiroshima, many people from all around the world visited and prayed for peace. So when Takijama mysteriously arrived with 2 of Sasano's magical horses, there was surprise. The horses carried children on their strong backs. They carried victims of that terrible day. People patted and stroked them. Photographs from cell phones were soon buzzing around the internet. It didn't take long for the media to turn up. Takijama was in the news again. Standing between the horses together with a multitude of pilgrims at the Hiroshima Peace Shrine, Takijama released Amatersu's tears. As they floated upwards, their rays stirred hope and resolve in the hearts of all. The shadow of evil darkness, cursed ignorance, the stealing of and from children could no longer hide. It was there for all to see. They just needed to know how to look. By the end of the day, Takijama was very tired. An old man now, he knew that as a creature of nature, his time on this earth was drawing to a close. The horses carried him back to the little farm in Hokkaido. There they happily stayed, grazing on the rich pastures with Hanako and Takijama's ponies. There the 2 Ainu children, who visited him so often, now grown, ran the farm. And there the drop bear ninja came to relax and get back to nature. The local council built a tourist education centre, Takijama's exhibit, a national treasure, always popular. And so came the day when Hanako, out of the corner of her eye, saw a young man come. He came for tea and an invitation for a morning walk. He and Takijama walked and talked, losing track of time and distance, until they reached Amino Hashidate Bridge. As they walked across the bridge, Takijama said, "This looks like heaven." "It is," said the young man. "Your body is left behind. Thank you for all your help. I have to go back and continue my work, but for you, my friend, heaven waits." With that, the young man gave Takijama the scarf he'd been wearing around his neck. "I loan this to you. Return it to me next time around." The red scarf of Jizo.
Yoru to yoake no aida ni omoide yasumu kuri ga aru mayori konde shimaeba.
From the secret dream diary of Yumeno-chan, first daughter of Aiko-chan, drummer with the drop bear ninja.
今日は13歳の誕生日。夕べ、行さんの亀と泳いでいる夢を見た。
Morning of my
金の
13th
はしご
birthday.
が目の前に出た。
Last night, I dreamt I swam with sea turtles. A ladder of gold rose before me, so I floated up to the other world. There before me lay a shimmering tropical beach. I was so happy to have found it, this island of which my mother spoke. In the distance, I heard exquisite music. Takijama was there, and he wasn't alone. He welcomed me most warmly. I offered to help prepare food from the garden for his guests. They were just as my mother described, shining, enlightened, and real. This is no dream, I remember thinking. We laughed and talked with each other, with the dolphins in the lagoon and with the luminescent disc standing in the shallows. It was all so easy, I thought. When I touched the disc, she purred, just like a cat. "Ah, I like you. I will carry you." Then Mr. Takijama said the strangest thing. I can't even remember my name or how I came here. Only then was I aware that he was dressed in military pilot uniform, and realized this was Takijama before he was rescued from the island all those years ago. The shining alien smiled mischievously and said, "He's just a little jet-lagged. We decided to loan him back to the world for a while. He's trained as a cosmic masseur of a most esteemed order. You've successfully dreamed your way back in time to the moment of our first meeting on this beach. We think you should know something. We're sorry it caused sadness when he vanished so suddenly in your time." Farewells are never easy. Where did he go? Is he alive? The answer is, yes he is. We picked him up, just as we will with Aiko-chan, your mother, and her band many years from now. So little sea turtle, go now in peace. Swim back to your own time and warm bed. Now you know the way. We can always meet here on this island. Oh, by the way, you won't remember any of this in the morning, Yumeno-chan, but you will.
何も覚えていないよ。でも夢のちゃん、あなたは覚えてる。
夜と夜明けの間に光が眠る空があるさえする通りは時忘れ愛した心もかすみゆく
Next in Takijama, Episode 6, Chew Fat.